My business partners sexually harassed me for 20 minutes before learning I was the CEO they came to meet, so I had them removed by security, leaked the story, and watched as their wives filed for divorce while their careers imploded. When I founded my company 10 years ago, I made it my mission to go against all the head up your A-tro stereotypes, meaning I barely told anyone who I was LMAO. So when a large venture company wanted to acquire us for $50 million, I prepped hard. I wore my usual Zara blazer and slacks, nothing that screamed CEO. Richard Brennan walked into my conference room with 2 associates and took my chair at the head of the table without asking. Coffee would be great, sweetheart. I like it sweet, just like you. That's how it started. The way he looked me up and down before dismissing me entirely. Watching them colonize my conference room was a sight to see. When I tried explaining the numbers I'd prepared, Brennan held up his hand like he was stopping traffic. That one gesture said everything. I was background static, something to tolerate until the real meeting started. Just point Mark, my co-founder husband, to the real numbers when he gets here. They had this energy like teenage boys who'd found their dad's Playboy collection. Tom was already texting someone. David stared at my chest. When I tried to defend my numbers, he laughed. Sweetheart, what's your customer acquisition cost? I started to answer, but he cut me off. Wrong. Gosh, does Mark have to explain everything twice? This is why women shouldn't run companies. Maybe she's better with other numbers, David said, like her measurements. They all laughed. Tom found my awards on the wall. Female Entrepreneur of the Year? That's cute, like a kid's soccer trophy. He actually took it off the wall. Do they give these to every woman who starts an Etsy shop? David had moved closer while I watched them trash my office. Your company needs a real CEO, someone with balls. His hand touched my arm. Mark seems too soft for you, in every way. Speaking of soft, Brennan opened my desk drawer and pulled out my emergency tampons. This explains the emotional business plan. They surrounded me then. Brennan behind my chair, Tom to my left, his hand on the table next to mine, David on my right, too close. Here's what's going to happen, Brennan said, his hand on my shoulder now. Your pretty face won't last forever, you know. May as well use it now so when we bleed the company dry, we'll give you a slice. Or we walk, Tom added, his hand dropping to my thigh. And we'll make sure everyone knows you're impossible to work with. We want to see if the back looks as good as the front, Tom chimed in. My assistant knocked on the door. Mrs. Lee, your 3 o'clock is here. The air changed instantly. Brennan's frown was almost comical. Tom whispered something about Mark's wife. Then Mark walked in and everything shifted into fast forward. He kissed my cheek and introduced me as his wife. That's when it hit them. We were the CEO and founder, the woman who built everything they wanted to buy. Watching their faces was better than closing any deal. Brennan shot up so fast his chair fell over. Tom hit the wall, backing away. David's phone clattered onto the table. Within 48 hours, all 3 were unemployed. And the 3 security guards escorting them out was just the beginning. Because I had one more surprise for them. I sat in my office reviewing the security footage on my laptop while my lawyer, Gwendolyn O'Brien, took notes. The timestamp showed 2:47 p.m. when Brennan's hand landed on my thigh. Clear as day. Undeniable. My assistant knocked and entered with a phone held out. Harrison Ventures' damage control team was on the line, offering double the acquisition price if I signed a comprehensive NDA. I put them on speaker while my assistant grabbed her notepad. They were still talking when I hung up. They had no idea I'd been recording that call too. The next morning, I posted a LinkedIn article about the importance of due diligence when selecting investors. Nothing specific, nothing actionable, just enough to make 3 unemployed executives sweat. My phone buzzed constantly with reactions and shares. The post went viral within hours. Tech blogs picked it up. The comments section exploded with speculation. Mark found me in the kitchen that evening, his face tight with concern. Tom's wife had reached out to him on LinkedIn after seeing news of the firings. She wanted to know what really happened. I stared at my coffee, wrestling with whether to warn her or use her. The decision gnawed at me as I drove to the Starbucks near our office the next day. When I called her from the parking lot, she answered on the first ring. She was already crying. The coffee meeting revealed more than I expected. Tom's wife, Penelope O'Bartholomew, had been documenting his business dinners for her divorce lawyer for months. She showed me photos, receipts, text messages. We formed an unexpected alliance over lukewarm lattes. She needed evidence. I had plenty. 3 days later, everything exploded at once. The acquisition deadline loomed. Employees panicked about viral rumors spreading through Silicon Valley. My daughter's school called about uncomfortable questions from other parents. I handled the first 2 from my office, but the school required my immediate presence. Meeting with the principal meant driving across town to the coffee shop near campus. I was explaining the situation when I spotted her. Brennan's wife sat 3 tables away, telling someone on the phone that I had destroyed her husband. Our eyes met. She didn't look away. The confrontation never came. She left without approaching me, but the damage was done. Word spread quickly through our social circles. That weekend, someone filmed Brennan having a panic attack at the country club. His rants about being set up made him look unhinged. The video circulated through private group chats before hitting Twitter. My 12-year-old daughter came home from school the following Monday in tears. She'd defended David to her classmates because he'd once helped with her science fair project. She didn't understand why I'd destroyed his life. I couldn't explain it in terms a child would understand. How could I tell her that the man who'd taught her about chemical reactions had touched me inappropriately? The USB drive with additional security footage sat in my desk drawer like a ticking bomb. Accessing the raw files required my IT director's approval. When I finally asked, he hesitated. His questions about why I needed them felt loaded. I gave him a vague answer about legal documentation. He provided access, but I caught him looking at me differently afterward. The following week brought the team lunch I couldn't cancel. I forced myself to attend, to smile, to laugh at an employee's joke about a difficult client. Someone photographed that moment. Within hours, the image spread across social media as proof I was enjoying the destruction of 3 men's lives. Brennan's attorney sent a cease and desist letter demanding I return confidential acquisition documents he'd supposedly left behind. The legal maze was beginning. My lawyer warned me this was just the opening move. They were building a case that I'd entrapped them. During an emergency board meeting, 2 members pointed pointed out my history of aggressive negotiations with male competitors. They suggested a pattern of entrapment. One mentioned the Techstars incident from 3 years ago, when I'd outmaneuvered a sexist CEO during a partnership deal. The implication hung heavy in the air. The WhatsApp group for female founders in the Bay Area became a battleground. Some defended me fiercely. Others worried about poisoning the well for all women in tech. The group that had once been my support system fractured along invisible lines. Messages flew back and forth at all hours. Some members left entirely. My investigation into the 3 men's past behavior triggered their lawyers. They flagged it as cyberstalking and threatened a restraining order. Every move I made to defend myself became ammunition for their counterattack. The irony wasn't lost on me. They could grab my thigh, but I couldn't Google their history. Brennan's wife still had her visitor badge from a charity event at our company. Security didn't recognize her as a threat when she used it to accidentally encounter employees in our lobby. She asked innocent-seeming questions about the company culture, about me, about what really happened. Some employees talked, most didn't, but damage was done. The Starbucks incident happened on a Thursday. I misheard someone at the counter say something about that CEO witch. I confronted him publicly, angrily, only to realize he'd been talking about a TV show. Someone filmed the entire exchange. The video went viral as evidence of me losing control, attacking an innocent man. The comments were brutal. My brother called that night. His wife was threatening divorce if he didn't withdraw as company advisor. She couldn't support someone who enabled cancel culture. He believed me, he said, but couldn't lose his family. The resignation email arrived an hour later. Another ally gone. The next morning, I discovered the cruelest blow yet. School moms had created a separate playdate calendar excluding my daughter. I found out when she asked why she couldn't go to Emma's birthday party anymore. Her tears broke something inside me. The war was claiming innocent casualties. David's claims shifted like sand. First, he'd misread signals. Now he insisted he'd been testing my professionalism on Mark's behalf. The contradictions in his statements to HR should have helped my case, but his lawyers spun it as confusion from trauma I'd caused by overreacting. My best friend Sarah called with an awkward request. She needed Brennan's recommendation for a nonprofit board position she'd worked toward for years. Could I show some understanding? Maybe consider that this had all been a misunderstanding? The conversation ended with neither of us saying goodbye. Proving Tom took my award off the wall required showing security footage from my office. My lawyer's face fell as she reviewed it. The same footage also showed me drinking wine in my office after hours 6 months ago. A new narrative emerged in their legal filings about alcohol in the workplace affecting my judgment and perception. We won a minor victory in discovery proceedings. My legal team and I celebrated with champagne in the conference room. Someone photographed us through the window. The image spread with captions about celebrating the destruction of lives, toasting to ruined careers. Context didn't matter anymore. The war had evolved beyond my control. We were locked in mutually assured destruction. Every move I made to defend myself gave them ammunition. Every attack they launched forced me to escalate. The spiral tightened with each passing day. Neither side could back down without losing everything. I understood now what I'd started when I had them escorted out. This wasn't about justice anymore. It was about survival, and only one side would walk away intact. The discovery that David had started dating my head of marketing hit me during our Monday morning meeting. She walked in wearing the earrings he'd given her, the same ones I'd complimented the week before. Their connection had formed at AA meetings, she explained later when I cornered her in the break room. She quoted my own leadership mantras back at me about second chances and not judging people's pasts. My hands shook as I poured coffee, watching her defend the man who'd groped me. The security footage became our next battlefield. My lawyer and I spent hours reviewing the angle where Tom's hand touched my thigh. From one perspective, it looked like assault. From another, it could have been him reaching past me for his phone. The ambiguity made my stomach churn. Tom's legal team had already crafted their narrative around this uncertainty. Discovery proceedings unearthed an email I'd sent 3 years ago. In it, I'd joked about using feminine wiles during a tough negotiation. The opposing counsel highlighted every word, turning my attempt at humor into evidence of manipulation. My own words became weapons in their depositions, twisted to paint me as someone who weaponized gender for business advantage. My daughter's teacher requested a meeting about concerns regarding our home environment. She'd overheard my daughter telling classmates that mommy made the bad men lose their houses. The teacher's careful questions about stress at home felt like accusations. I left the meeting feeling judged, wondering what else my child had shared in innocent classroom conversations. The leaked video surfaced on a Friday afternoon. Someone had obtained nanny cam footage from my home office showing me practicing for my deposition. I watched myself on screen rehearsing emotional responses, testing which facial expressions conveyed the right amount of pain. The internet mob descended within hours, calling me calculated and fake. During mediation, the judge treated our case like a business dispute between equals. He suggested we were all professionals who'd simply misunderstood boundaries. His dismissive attitude toward my harassment claims made my lawyer's jaw tighten. We were fighting an uphill battle against systemic minimization. Brennan's LinkedIn posts grew increasingly unhinged as his job search faltered. Each rejection seemed to fuel another rant about cancel culture destroying innocent men. I monitored them obsessively, screenshotting everything. His professional network slowly distanced themselves as his posts became more vitriolic. Tom took the opposite approach, positioning himself as a resilient victim of false accusations. Men's rights groups rallied around his posts about staying strong in the face of injustice. His follower count exploded. Speaking engagements at Red Med conferences followed. He was building a brand on the foundation of denying my assault. My therapist received a subpoena for all notes related to our sessions. The opposing counsel wanted to establish pre-existing trauma that might affect my perception of events. Years of private conversations about my father, my struggles with imposter syndrome, my anxiety, all of it was now potential ammunition. I felt violated all over again. The second mediation attempt failed spectacularly. Brennan spotted my phone recording in my pocket and made a scene about bad faith negotiation. The mediator documented everything in her report, noting my apparent unwillingness to engage honestly. My attempt to protect myself had backfired completely. School pickup became a daily gauntlet. Other parents filmed me with their phones, claiming they needed documentation for their own protection. My daughter started asking to be picked up at the back entrance. She'd noticed the stares, the whispers, the way her friends' parents pulled their children away from us. My head of engineering withdrew his patent application, rather than testify about our office culture. He had 2 kids in college, he explained, and couldn't afford to be seen taking sides. His withdrawal left a hole in our technical leadership and our legal strategy. Another domino fell. The industry conference in Palo Alto brought a fresh humiliation. David attended wearing our company's conference swag, the limited edition hoodie we'd given to early investors. Seeing my logo on the man who'd groped me made bile rise in my throat. He caught my eye across the convention center and smiled. Brennan's public apology offer came through his lawyer. He would admit to a misunderstanding, not assault, if I dropped a civil suit. The tech press framed my refusal as vindictive, a woman demanding her pound of flesh rather than accepting a gracious apology. The narrative was shifting against me. Reviewing the security footage for the 100th time revealed a devastating detail. A large potted plant partially blocked the camera angle. Tom's hand on my thigh was visible, but his facial expression remained obscured. The certainty I'd felt watching that first time wavered. My smoking GN had become a water pistol. Mark's revelation came during a tense dinner conversation. He'd been documenting concerns about the 3 men from previous interactions, building his own file of their inappropriate behavior. His foresight should have helped, but it raised new questions about why we'd proceeded with the acquisition talks knowing their reputation. My excitement about the initial acquisition offer became another weapon against me. Emails showed my enthusiasm about the valuation, my eagerness to close the deal. The opposing counsel painted a picture of someone who'd ignored red flags for financial gain, then cried harassment when things went south. My mother faced an impossible choice when Brennan's wife leveraged her position as hospital board chair. Supporting me publicly meant losing her transplant program. She chose her patients, but secretly fed me information about Brennan's wife's extramarital affairs. The guilt of forcing this decision on her ate at me nightly. Adopting their tactics felt like drinking poison. I arranged for associates to accidentally encounter their families at grocery stores, soccer games, church services. Each orchestrated meeting required careful planning to appear coincidental. I was becoming someone I didn't recognize. The coffee shop meeting with David's AA sponsor required deep cover. I discussed my father's drinking problem, mining my real trauma to maintain the pretense of seeking help. The sponsor revealed David's history of boundary issues, his inability to read social cues. The information felt hollow, purchased with my own pain. A former Harrison Ventures employee reached out with Tom's past complaint settlements. She forwarded the documents minutes before her NDA kicked in, risking legal action to help me. 3 other women had accused him of inappropriate touching. All had settled quietly. I wasn't special. I was just the first to fight publicly. Brennan's ex-business partner emerged from the woodwork with corroborating stories. We weren't their first female-founded acquisition target to face harassment. The pattern was clear, but proving premeditation required more evidence than we had. Each revelation felt like a Pyrrhic victory. The board meeting about our IPO timeline went poorly. I arrived late, frazzled from a legal strategy session. Board members questioned my focus, suggesting my personal vendetta was derailing company progress. The interim CEO suggestion came wrapped in concern for my well-being, but the threat was clear. Legal bills mounted faster than I'd anticipated. I liquidated personal stock while watching the 3 men use corporate insurance for their defense. The financial imbalance added insult to injury. They could afford to drag this out indefinitely. I was bleeding money with every filing. The confrontation at my daughter's favorite restaurant shattered more than plates. She ran crying from the dining room after Brennan's wife confronted us during her birthday dinner. The staff stood frozen, unsure how to handle the scene. We never went back. Another piece of normal life gone. Working from home became my new reality after the board suggested a sabbatical. Mark supported me publicly, but privately begged me to consider settling. He showed me spreadsheets of legal costs versus our renovation budget, our daughter's college fund, our retirement savings, all of it slowly draining away. The innocent casualties mounted. My executive assistant faced questioning about facilitating meetings, putting her job at risk. A single mother of 2, she couldn't afford to lose her health insurance. When her spouse filed for separation citing exposure to a toxic work environment, I realized how far the damage had spread. I pushed forward despite the collateral damage, justifying it as necessary for the greater good. But watching my assistant pack her desk, tears streaming down her face, tested that conviction. Her children would suffer because I'd refused to back down. The weight of that responsibility crushed me. Mark's question during couples counseling cut deep. He asked what would happen if the security footage wasn't as clear as I remembered. Instead of answering, I stormed out, leaving him with a therapist. The drive home gave me time to realize I was afraid to examine that possibility too closely. Maintaining credibility required admitting uncomfortable truths. Yes, I'd had vindictive thoughts. Yes, I'd wanted them to suffer. Yes, I'd taken satisfaction in their downfall. Each admission gave their lawyers more ammunition, but denying these human reactions would have destroyed my authenticity. Evidence emerged showing I'd ignored earlier warning signs about their behavior. Emails from female founders warning me about Harrison Ventures. Industry whispers I'd dismissed as jealousy. My hunger for the deal had blinded me to obvious red flags. The revelation that I should have seen this coming hit hard. Their legal team's emergency motion caught us off guard. My lawyer was stuck in another case when the hearing date arrived. I had to self-represent at a crucial moment, standing alone before a judge who barely concealed his impatience with the entire matter. My hands trembled as I argued procedural points. David's genuine belief that we'd had chemistry complicated everything. Years of my friendly CEO persona had been misread as flirtation. His delusion didn't excuse the assault, but it explained his persistence in a way that muddied the narrative. The black and white story I told myself grew grew gray. Using my daughter's tears in a court filing violated every principle I'd built my company on, but I did it anyway, submitting photos of her crying after the restaurant incident. Her innocent pain became a legal strategy. When she asked why her crying was in the newspaper, I had no good answer. The collaborative leader I'd spent a decade becoming disappeared, replaced by someone calculating and cold. I mapped out pressure points, identified weaknesses, planned strategic strikes. The transformation felt like watching myself from outside my body, horrified but unable to stop. Getting the building janitor to testify required moral compromise. He'd overheard executive bathroom conversations about putting me in my place. In exchange for his testimony, I wrote a college recommendation for his son that exaggerated the boy's achievements. Another ethical line crossed in pursuit of victory. Our minor victory on the hostile workplace claim felt hollow when I encountered David's son at school pickup. The boy's accusation that I was why they were moving hit harder than any legal filing. His tears mirrored my daughter's. We were creating a generation of collateral damage. Their counterclaim for defamation gained traction as my own words worked against me. Every angry email, every frustrated text, every moment of lost composure became evidence of malice. The judge's increased interest in their claims sent my legal team into overdrive. Everything hinged on Mark's upcoming testimony about my mental state and perception of events. The pressure on our marriage had been building for months. Late-night arguments about strategy, accusations of choosing revenge over family, his support wavering as costs mounted and casualties accumulated. Tom's daughter reached out through LinkedIn, leveraging our past mentorship. I'd written her college recommendation 2 years earlier, praising her intelligence and drive. Now she begged me to explain why I was destroying her father. Her message sat unread for days while I wrestled with how to respond. The venture capital community split into camps based on self-interest. Partners who'd faced their own harassment allegations sided with the men. Those with daughters in the industry supported me. Most stayed silent, waiting to see which narrative would win before choosing sides. Civil court's different evidence standards became painfully clear as our case progressed. Criminal charges required proof beyond reasonable doubt. Civil damages required only preponderance of evidence. But even that lower bar felt impossibly high when facing skilled lawyers and systemic bias. Calling in favors from victim advocates felt like cashing in chips at a casino. Each connection I leveraged meant burning bridges for future help. The advocate who owed me for past donations provided precedent cases but refused to testify, protecting her other pending cases. Research revealed the pattern I'd suspected all along. Harrison Ventures had a history of targeting female founders, always finding reasons to tank deals after inappropriate advances. But I was the first to document it, the first to fight back. The weight of enabling future victims by previously staying quiet haunted me. The Slack archives provided our strongest evidence yet. Messages between the three men after our meeting showed them bragging about putting me in my place. David's comment about teaching the Ice Queen a lesson made my skin crawl, but proving their mindset didn't legally prove assault beyond the ambiguous video footage. Accepting that justice required harming innocents marked a turning point in my transformation. Their families, their children, their employees, all would suffer for the sins of three men. I committed to full exposure anyway, knowing it would destroy multiple families including my own. Brennan's deposition revealed the depths of their misogyny. He'd kept scorecards rating female founders on attractiveness and perceived asexual availability. My name was circled with notes about needing to thaw the Ice Queen. The evidence was damning, but watching him squirm under questioning brought no satisfaction. Presenting evidence in court required suppressing all emotion. I let facts speak while maintaining rigid control. The jury saw humanity in my restraint, recognizing the effort it took to remain composed while reliving trauma. My lawyer said it was my most powerful testimony. Other women began reaching out privately with similar stories. None would go public, fearing the same destruction I faced. They watched my battle from the sidelines, grateful someone was fighting, but unwilling to join the war. Their silent support felt like abandonment. Both legal teams prepared for a verdict that would ripple through Silicon Valley's culture. The stakes had grown beyond our personal conflict. We were setting precedent for how the industry would handle harassment claims. The weight of that responsibility added another layer of pressure. The civil trial courtroom became a map of allegiances. Seating arrangements revealed who'd chosen sides. Former friends sat with my opponents. Industry leaders I'd respected avoided eye contact. The physical divide in the room mirrored the community's fracture. Under stress, I caught myself unconsciously mirroring their intimidation tactics. The aggressive posture, the dismissive hand gestures, the condescending tone, I'd absorbed their behavior like a virus. Recognizing these patterns in myself felt like looking in a funhouse mirror. Mark's testimony laid bare the personal cost of my war. He described my nightmares, the panic attacks, the way I'd flinch when he touched me unexpectedly. Business metrics showed declining performance, missed opportunities, deals lost while I focused on legal battles. His honesty felt like betrayal, even though I'd asked for it. The surprise witness changed everything. Brennan's own son broke ranks to corroborate the pattern of behavior he'd witnessed growing up. His exhaustion with complicity rang through the courtroom. His father's face went white as his son detailed decades of casual misogyny and targeted harassment. The judge ordered a detailed investigation of Harrison Ventures' acquisition practices. Federal regulators would examine every deal, every interaction with female founders. The scope went beyond what we'd requested. My individual complaint had triggered systematic scrutiny. Technical analysis of the security footage confirmed what we'd claimed all along. The timestamp was accurate, the footage unedited. Enhancement technology clarified previously ambiguous moments. The grabbing motion was deliberate, sustained, intentional. No reaching for phones, no innocent explanations. When the verdict came, it felt anticlimactic. The jury found assault had occurred but limited damages due to my contributory actions. The victim isn't perfect precedent would haunt future cases. We'd won, technically, but the victory felt hollow. David's breakdown during the damage phase revealed a disturbing truth. He genuinely couldn't distinguish professional friendliness from romantic romantic invitation. Years of therapy hadn't fixed his fundamental inability to read social cues. His tears seemed real, but they changed nothing. The judge offered me a chance to speak at sentencing for civil penalties. I'd prepared remarks about personal pain, but pivoted at the last moment. This wasn't about 3 men anymore. It was about thousands of women who'd been silenced, sidelined, or driven out. My voice cracked as I spoke for all of us. The hostile workplace claim brought our most significant victory. The jury awarded damages that would sting but not bankrupt. More importantly, they'd validated the systematic nature of the harassment. The precedent was set. Future victims would have an easier path. Silicon Valley split down the middle in response to the verdict. Reform advocates demanded immediate change to funding practices. Others cried witch hunt, claiming the case would destroy innovation. My company lost 3 major clients within a week. The financial hit was immediate and brutal. Rebuilding required accepting a smaller reality. Key employees who'd stayed neutral through the trial made their exits. Those who remained believed in something bigger than profit. My daughter wrote me a note calling me her dragon slayer. It was worth more than any acquisition offer. The investor vetting system I implemented became my lasting contribution. Background checks specifically for harassment history. Reference calls to female founders they'd previously pitched. Mandatory training on appropriate behavior. Other women-led companies adopted it quickly. The old boys club pushed back hard.